Although there are issues with Albanians coming to the UK, what we might call economic migrants, although there are issues with gangs trafficking Albanians specifically to the UK over the last few years, and more recently in the last 6 months, there is a tendency for the rhetoric to be ramped up in what is frankly racist abuse. And I'm really delighted to hear Edi Rama, the Albanian Prime Minister, saying that we in Britain should not discriminate against Albanians to excuse for policy failures in our own country. The rhetoric is becoming abusive. Now, why am I in a position to say anything like this at all? I'm not. I'm just a sort of minor individual. But number one, I know Albania. And number two, I've seen it all before. When I went to live in Greece in the late 1990s, and I stayed there until 2004, when I came back to the UK, because my partner had been targeted and abused in a detention centre by the Greek Coast Guard, and I subsequently took Greece to court, I was very much aware that Albanians were the scapegoat for anything that was wrong in Greece. Shortly after I arrived in Greece, I had my video recorder, my video player, stolen. Somebody broke into my flat through a window and stole, I think they stole a television and the video recorder. And at the time I lived almost directly underneath the apartment of the head of police. And so I did actually have immediate recourse to the police. And I don't remember whether it was actually him or whether it was one of his assistants who immediately said, "Oh, this is Albanian." I subsequently discovered, about a year and a half later, when I bizarrely found myself in a position where I was invited to tea with one of my neighbours across the street, I discovered there was my television and my video recorder, my video player. Nothing to do with Albania at all. Somehow she must have stolen it. Somehow she had got hold of it. I don't know how. It was very embarrassing. But no investigation was done into the theft of my television. No investigation was done into the fact that my flat had been broken into, because there was an immediate assumption that Albanians had done it. And I heard this again and again and again. And I was always delighted with the Albanian people I met. And indeed, some of my students, one of my students was the best performing student in his school, and it was the duty of the best performing student to carry the Greek flag on the Independence Day parades. And there was a big debate about whether it was right for an Albanian immigrant to carry the Greek flag. In the end, he did, and very proudly. I've seen this racism at work before. It was repellent then, in the same way as it is now. The difference is, now it is being manufactured in our parliament by people like Suella Braverman. It's as wrong now as it was then. And it's the same group of people who are being targeted. And out of those people who are coming here, out of those Albanians who are coming here, a very small number would be criminals. And I think there's an expression, I don't know whether it's an Albanian expression, there are pigs in the forest. There are always pigs in the forest. Yes, there are. There are criminals in our country too. And of those who may have come to this country and have sought asylum, I think out of the number of people who've come. There's almost a similar number this year of Afghans as Albanians, and many of the Albanians are legitimate refugees, and many of them are having their cases looked at. But the bigger problem is the huge backlog that we haven't cleared. So we simply do not know, and it is illegitimate, it is wrong, it is thuggish and prejudiced to penalise and discriminate against one particular group of people simply because we in our country cannot be bothered to get off our backsides and do the job which is necessary and which we have undertaken and promised to do as part of our commitment to the 1951 Refugee Convention. I cannot be more ashamed of our government and of those people who are pillorying one particular nation, one particular group of people. Now, in the late 1990s, in fact, slightly before that, the old ruler of Albania, Enver Hoxha, died, and Albania opened up slowly to the West, and it is still adjusting to that process. It's a significantly freer and more open country than it was even when I first knew it. I remember going to Albania, getting arrested on the mountains because I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I remembered an extremely warm and reassuring group of people who charmingly looked after me and pointed me in the right direction, and I ended up in Kosovo. I will always be very grateful to the Albanians that I met back in 1987, I think. And I would warmly recommend all those people who are saying such ridiculous things to take a trip to Tirana and Durrës and go across the mountains to Elbasan, to visit Berat and Vlorë, and go up to Kroja, the heart of the old mountain retreat of the legendary scourge of the Ottoman Empire, Skanderbeg. Albania is an old and proud country, and we are wrong. We are wrong to single Albania out as the problem. The problem is here. And yes, there are some thugs who may have taken advantage of the fact that we are too lazy to process our paperwork. But in the end, that's our fault. And yeah, I'm sure there'll be plenty of other people who would take advantage of our tardiness and our desultory bureaucracy. Our fault. Our fault.